The story starts with Eloz tending to the plants and being happy that they are growing. She is proud all her hard work has paid off. She smiles and thinks. Indeed, with such good results, it's no surprise considering how rich and fertile the soil is. She then concludes that's enough for today. She looks back and observes no one would ever think there's a field like this hidden in the forest. However, she stops in her tracks when she reveals she wasn't always so enthusiastic about tending this field. 14 years ago, her mother, the owner of Espencia estate, passed away, and according to the law, all her assets would be inherited by her as she is the daughter. But the Espencia's family's duchess, the wife of the Basilan duke, seized her mother's property. After that, the duke quickly remarried and replaced all the servants in the mansion with his own people. And then, one day he decided that she seems so shocked she is being sent to the monastery for recuperation. That's how she was abandoned. She tells us there's only one path of the hill to the Vieira monastery, and with the Vieira forest and a cliff behind it, there's no way to leave the forest without passing through the monastery. When she had arrived at the monastery as a scared kid, they told her a quiet, private space must be needed for a noble lady like you, but it was an abandoned place in the forest. Since then, the monastery has sent her food every day, but it wasn't the edible that she almost starved to death before giving in. With determination on her face, she tells us it was hard enough to die, but she did not. She pretended to be sick to lessen their surveillance and survived. She would be grateful if she could continue living freely like this. That's when she notices two shadows in the distance. She's cautious suddenly when she realizes there are people from the monastery. She dashes to her room from the back door and swiftly retrieves a cloak hidden beneath the bed. She quickly wears it while they are waiting and tells her that they have brought her meal. As she opens the door, a foul stench assaults their senses. She is wearing the dirty and smelly cloak. She stammers her thanks, but they, visibly affected by the odor, advise her to stay silent, hastily hand over the food and bolt away, leaving her isolated and alone. She is frustrated and screams as she takes off her cloak, saying she cannot get used to this rotten smell no matter how many times she smells it. As she settles on her bed, she thinks that's strange. Normally only one person comes to deliver and leaves, but today there are two. She wonders if her father sent someone, but thinks why all of a sudden and needs to find out. She steps inside the mansion and sees it's even messier than before, but finds butter, and she thinks she will have to take some butter and sugar while she's at it, as she can find vegetables, fruits, and meat in the forest, but there's no way to find sugar, butter, flour, and milk. She hears footsteps then and realizes someone is coming. She has her back to them while she's pretending to wash dishes and convinces herself to stay calm. She thinks, are they the monks that she has seen before, or are they in charge of cleaning? They converse with each other. One of them asks who is the guest today that got the abbots so worked up. And it seems like our massive donation was made, and he is ecstatic. The other one asks him, is he aware there's a girl abandoned in that hut, and refers to her as Lady Eloz. The other one says, what does he mean by lady? She's just a woman waiting for death in a ruler monastery. They then disclose information that shocks her to the core, revealing that it appears her father was killed. Upon hearing this, her face transforms into a ghostly visage, paling with profound shock. They wonder if now she's the countess and guess about the guest who came today. They think it's someone sent by the late count's wife. Eloz thinks it's the count's wife, Camilla. The monks reveal that according to the law, the inheritance process must be followed within a week of the 10th. If the inheritance isn't settled within that time, things could get complicated. The black-haired man wonders if they want to keep the lady here for a week and believes it's foolish. If that's the case, they should just leave her alone as they have been doing. Why send someone now? But the brown-haired one guesses, considering they went through the trouble by sending someone and giving a large sum to the about, they probably want to get rid of her hair without any hassle. Eloz's eyes widen in fear, and she goes completely still. As she is on her way back in the forest, she recalls the man's world from earlier that they want to get rid of her. When she was abandoned here, she spent all day crying in shock at first. She didn't know how to do anything, as at her house, the adults always did it for her. Then, as time passed and she got older, she slowly accepted the situation that she is abandoned and no one is on her side. When she was not satisfied with the food sent by the monastery, she went in search of it by herself with the help of the books left behind by the hunter. She learned the things necessary for survival by reading books and diaries that the hunter abandoned, and that's how she discovered the ground. A ground for farming. She was determined to turn this place into a field and plant beans, potatoes, as she was sick of black bread. Now she's packing everything as she can't die here after surviving like that. Meals are served every 2 days, and today they already brought it, so tomorrow no one will come until that man comes, so she must go right now. She touches the necklace she is wearing and thinks this is the only thing that she must take with her. At first she thought about running away from here, but she did not think her situation would get better, and maybe she could go back to the capital one day. One memory resurfaces in her mind where she was with her mother, who embraced her with love and affection. She also made her promise that one day when she could inherit this beautiful garden could she protect this place. Eloz was worried if she could do that, but her mother assured her of course she is her daughter. Her mother took off her necklace and gave it to her and made her promise to always cherish this necklace. She told her when she's having a hard time, she should wear this necklace and pray while looking at the garden. Then she will get a lot of help. She holds her mother's necklace tightly and says, "Mother, if anyone comes to kill her tomorrow, they will know she's gone. Even if she has a day to spare, she will be caught soon if they send someone from the abbey." She smirks and thinks that's it, she can run away. On her way, she sees her field and the vegetables growing. She thinks it will be harvest season soon, but she won't be able to eat it. She also wonders if she will be able to grow and cook crops in the future. When she arrives at the cliff, she thinks no matter how many times she comes, it's a dizzying height, so nobody had thought that she would run away. It was hard to believe when she first saw the hunter's diary about there's a way down the cliff here. When she first went down, she was so scared that she cried. On weekends, the abbey did not even give her a trashy meal, so she climbed down the cliff and went to the village. She started selling books that she had read and memorized over and over again. Gradually, she became good at bargaining to get the right price. She bought a lot of things with the money she received, from crops to be planted in the field and plain clothes. She thinks they thought she would give up here. She finally climbs down the cliff with the help of rope. Her hands are hurting, but she convinces herself to get it together. From now it's a real deal. The assassin hired to kill her comes at night with a sword, he thinks, if she is asleep already, and that will be better as he can finish her off easily. But when he opens the door and steps in, there's a trap set by her for him, and he falls to the ground and lets out a terrifying scream. Eloz arrives at the capital riding a horse. She smiles when she realizes she is finally back to the capital where Mother used to live. She observes there's a lot more people here now, probably because of the war. 5 years ago, the Beastman race came over the Eternal Mountains in the north and invaded the Empire. The Empire, which barely knew of their existence, was completely unprepared to deal with this large-scale invasion and lost almost all of the northern territories, resulting in swamps of refugees coming to the capital with nowhere else to go. The Empire swiftly assembled their military, and people from various families joined the imperial army, and the most famous among these people were the mercenary King Harkin. He is known to cover his face all the time, so few people know about his identity, but he was known as the mercenary king for over 30 years, so her only guess is that he would be over 50 years of age, and a year ago, the emperor had granted peerage and various awards to Harkin and many others for their service to the empire. Eloz further reveals the war may be over, but its after effects still linger in the north. The recovery efforts just got started this year, too, so all these people are still unable to return home. She wonders what she should do, as she is sure the mansion is full of people that work for Camilla. According to the Empire's law, those who are not married are not acknowledged as legal adults. Furthermore, if a parent died, then the child who is a legal adult must declare that he or she intends to inherit the title. If that doesn't happen, then the peerage will be handed over to the surviving spouse, and it has been exactly 1 week since her father passed away, so she needs to get married right now. He realizes marrying a commoner would make things too complicated, so that's no good. There are 3 conditions. 1, he should be a noble. 2, he should be single, and 3, he must report their marriage in 3 hours to the proper office. She realizes that the office closes at 6 o'clock, so the only option left is this: the Mercenary Guild. They say that anything can be requested if there's a payment, and she has brought all her money with her. Anyone who's too greedy might be problematic, so she needs to ask for someone who has a good reputation, not that being greedy will get them anything else. She overhears some people who talk about that 10,000 gold was given to find someone, and they have never heard of so much money just to find someone, and it sounds like a walk in the park. But the man says something seems a little bit strange. It's a 22-year-old girl, blonde with green eyes, who was recently at the abbey. Eloz realizes they are talking about her. She quickly covers her face with the cloak as they step out and wonder, how do they expect them to find anyone with just that information? But they are determined to find her before anyone else finds her. Eloz knows it's Camilla. He realizes it will be 6 o'clock soon, and she does not have much time left. She clenches her fist and prays to God to please help her find it in his heart to send her a husband. And if possible, send her someone right now. That's when someone falls to the ground right in front of her. She is shocked and thinks if he fell from the heavens. That's when she notices someone is running after him and demands for him to pay back the money. He further says that he heard that he's been going around bragging to the ladies that he became a baron and he was lucky enough to kill some beastmen during the war. He says now why don't they see if they can squeeze some money out of him? She wonders if they are bouncers from a gambling den and guesses this poor guy got a bit unlucky. She should better get away from him before she gets pulled into any trouble. Silently standing to leave, she accidentally knocks over a dustbin and catches their attention. The man asks who she is. She replies she's just a nobody who is passing by and please, they should not mind her. They tell her to just get lost. She sighs in relief and tells them yes sir, she will. But just as she takes a step further, the man in cloak grabs her and she asks, "What is it? What's wrong with him?" And he says, "Honey, don't go." Her expressions are of pure confusion and disbelief. She tells him she thinks he's mistaken her for someone else. But he stands up abruptly and declares he did all this for her. She asks him now when was that, and she doesn't know anyone like him. The other man intervenes and says that she's a young woman, isn't she? And he could have sworn that earlier he heard a voice of a woman. He asks if she's really his wife. She tries to deny that she is not. He says if she wants her husband to be productive in bed, shouldn't she give them 50 gold coins to cover the money he borrowed, including the interest? She's furious and says, productive or not, she has no business being in bed with this man. She smiles again and tells him she is not his wife. He whispers in her ear, "Honey, it's 50 gold coins, hurry up and give it to them," and is she going to leave him like that? She tries to put distance between them and clearly tells him that she does not know him. He grabs her hand and notices she doesn't even flinch and thinks what kind of power she has. He whispers in her ear, asking if by any chance does she have 50 gold coins, and if she does, can she lend it to him for a moment? Promises to repay her. She is totally confused and wonders what's up with this guy. When she notices she is affected by his voice, she wonders if he's using some kind of magic. How can he steal someone's soul just with his voice? The man gets annoyed that what they're whispering about and comes nearer to grab Eloz. However, the guy comes in front of her to shield her with her money in his hand. He tells him here, take the money and hands over her money. She is shocked and doesn't know when he got her money. The men count, sit and knows it's exactly 50 gold coins. But when he notices the guy's beauty, he says, but if he doesn't have money, would he consider working at their place? The customer would love him. With that face, he could make a fortune. The guy says sorry, but that's not going to work. He is the type to only obey one person and brings Eloz's hand and presses a kiss on her knuckles and refers to her as honey. She is completely bewildered at this point. He then announces that they have given them the money, so let's leave it at that, and grabs her hand and takes her along with him. When they come to the corner, she's panting and he asks if she's okay and apologizes for dragging her into this all of a sudden and explains it's just how the situation unfolded. He further adds he will return the 50 gold coins right away. It will take a bit of a walk, but if they go to his place in the Western District, she notices she doesn't have much time and turns to him suddenly and asks if he's really a noble. He's confused, but answers anyway that he is a noble and an heir apparent at least. She grabs him by his cloak and says the 50 gold coins that he owes her doesn't he plan to repay her with his body. On the other hand, Camilla is sitting on her sofa and sighs. The maid says if she lies down like that, her dress will wrinkle. She replies, so what? She won't wear it again after the funeral. She then orders the maid to go get her some alcohol, and they're expecting a guest soon and show them to the room right away. A few days ago, Merchant Association president came to greet her and said she must be grieving deeply, but it's really rare to find such a vast mansion in the capital. It's the perfect land for the massive arcade they're planning, so once the funeral is over, she should sell it to them. They will buy the entire estate, including Espenzia's top floor. They also promised to pay her handsomely for it, so she agreed to sign the contract right after the funeral. She says even though it was once the Empire top floor, it's now at the level of a local business to think she would buy it with all its troubles that she can't even manage. It's a perfect deal. She thinks it's good that she sent that girl away to the monastery when she was young. She recalls a memory where the Eloz was being stubborn and saying that it's her mom's mansion and she wants to inherit it. Camilla thinks she has to reveal her intentions for the inheritance today, but it seems like she has given up since she hasn't shown herself yet. She is sure people from the Baselan family will never guess her true intentions, and she will sell everything and move to the south to live luxuriously. But then she wonders, why is the association president taking so long? Upon hearing some noises, she deduces that it seems the merchants have arrived. She steps out to greet them personally. The carriage stops, however, the person who steps out is no one other than Eloz. The maids run to her to inform her that today they cannot accept any customer, but she tells them she is not a customer. She takes off her cloak and declares she came to get back what's hers. The old maid gets shocked as she remembers that eye color and hair color. She knows it's Lady Eloz. She says she is glad someone remembers her, and Camilla, arrogant as ever, underestimates her and says she grew up in an abbey and became ignorant of the law. She has to be married if she wants to inherit the assets. She points out she is not married, so she doesn't have any right. But to her shock, Eloz takes out her marriage certificate and says, is she talking about this? She then says she should introduce her husband Lakshan to her. Camilla realizes she must have heard about the inheritance law somewhere, but even so with some northern barbarian. She states she cannot believe her, who has been in this abbey all this time, is married, and asks when on earth did she meet that man. She further asks what if he's a suspicious man? Eloz replies it's not something she should worry about and states Lakshan as her husband is not lacking. Camilla observes that his arms and legs look fine, so he must have a problem with his face, and she will have to break that confident spirit first. She then says, then why is he covering his face like that, like he's hiding something that cannot be shown? Eloz tries to reply, but Camilla cuts her off, demanding that if he's confident, he should show his face. Lakshan jokes that everyone is so worried about his wife he takes off his cloak and winks, asking if she is relieved now. Eloz notices he's really handsome. Lakshan acts super lovey-dovey with her and asks her, isn't this enough time to say hello, as he cannot wait to be alone with her. She wonders what happened to him. He did not act like this at the government office. She recalls when they were at the government's office, she asked for his name when signing the paper, but she wasn't too sure and asked him if he's okay with this. He says, didn't she say it was an emergency? She replied, but getting married for money she thinks isn't a good idea. He laughed and joked that he did not think that's what the person who told him to pay back with his body would say. He assured her it's okay, and she said they would get this worse after the trouble is over. He encouraged her to do it. She thought to herself she was going to be careful when choosing her husband. She never thought she would pick it up on the street. He then asked her if she was going straight to the mansion now. She replied no, there's someone she needed to meet before that. Back to the present, she makes it clear to Camilla that whatever she thinks, this is a document approved by the government, which means she is now the Count of Baseland and the owner of this place. Camilla is mad that she referred to herself as the owner of this place. That's when the carriage of the mercenaries arrives. Camilla is more than eager to greet them, while Eloz is confused and asks Lakshan if he knows them. He tells them a little, but they don't know him. He warns her they are mercenaries, so they are a little intimidating. The president steps out of the carriage and greets Camilla, and is happy that she has personally come to receive them. She smiles and says of course she's been waiting for so long, but there is a bit of a problem. He asks her what does she mean by a problem. She leans in closer and whispers in his ear. An uninvited person suddenly appeared. Eloz asks them who are they? One of the men replies they are here to meet the Countess Camilla today, and it's the chairman of the Merchants Association. She introduces herself as Eloz Espencha Baseland and tells him from today she is the Countess of Baseland. Camilla tells the president that if Eloz had come a little late their contract would have ended safely. The president smiles, but his intentions don't look good at all when he says that if the new count came a little later. His men say, what are they saying? The new countess came later, after the contract was already signed. They further say that maybe she won't come forever. Eloz is truly furious, her emotions boiling with intense anger. Lakshan asks her should he get rid of those people for her. She asks him how is he going to knock all those people down alone. He tells her there's nothing he cannot do. She smiles and says she knows it's only empty words, but thanks and thinks to herself, she almost believed him and asked him to do it for her. He again says is she not going to ask him to help her? She tells him yeah, because this is her problem. Camilla shouts hey what are they doing and asks them to hurry up and seize those bastards. The men come and capture both of them. Eloz screams to let go of him. He has nothing to do with this. Lakshan says what does she mean he got nothing to do with her, and reminds her he is her husband. She feels good to know that he is worried about her, but when he says it like that, she also feels a bit sad. That's when Camilla intervenes and tells him to stop joking around. She asks her if she thinks that a long-lost child will be acknowledged as a countess when she comes back. She reminds her she has been in the abbey for 14 years, but it seems like she couldn't learn how to be obedient and her gaze looks exactly the same as when she was a child. Eloz asks what kind of contact she has with the merchants. She replies it's nothing much because the countess who lost her husband and fell into grief was in so much pain when she saw the mansion full of memories and is trying to be calm. She further adds that her father wanted to hold on to the pride of a count, and he was really holding out and not selling this old mansion until the very end, even though they could have lived in a beggar mansion if they sold this one and went to the southern region. But Camilla believes now is the end of such a foolish act. Her husband died and she came too late when she opens her eyes again. Perhaps she will meet her parents. Eloz smirks and says that does she think she came without taking those things into consideration. She says she also knows her situation, the fact that there's no one who is going to stand by her side. Camilla wonders why she is being so confident. That's when a carriage arrives from the imperial palace. Camilla is shocked because she knows from the uniform that it's from the imperial palace. She orders them to let go of her because she knows it will be a problem if Eloz discloses what happened now. Lakshan comes after his wife and asks if she's okay. She tells him yeah. Marcus Lakshan, imperial family's minister of finance, steps out of the carriage and notices everyone is out here. Camilla and the president are shocked about why Minister Lakshan is here. Minister Lakshan's eyes land on Lakshan. He hesitates a bit and wonders why is that person here. He notices there are a lot more people than he expected and asks if he has to wait. Eloz assures him that all of them are uninvited guests, so she's about to send them away soon and thanks him for coming here. Lakshan reminds her that he should be the one thanking her instead because she said that she's going to donate all her territories and wealth, including this mansion, to the country. Camille and the men are shocked. Camilla is flabbergasted and says what? What does she mean? Lakshan thinks no matter how the prior count squandered his wealth, he still has so many territories in the region and lots of jewels as well as works of the art in this mansion. However, she's going to donate everything, even this mansion, to the country. Eloz thinks she was hesitating throughout her way to the capital as she was wondering she needed a method to safely protect the Count's mansion from Camilla. That's when this idea lit up in her mind to give all of it to the person that Camilla won't dare to go against. Lakshan tells her a donation of such a huge scale is the first in history and he has caused her trouble for coming at this time. She assures him not at all. She is only feeling grateful because he is preparing it for her right away, although it was a sudden request. She tells him she will entrust everything to him and requests him to take care of the terms that she asked him beforehand. He says of course he will definitely take care of it. She will donate everything. However, the term is to maintain this mansion and the garden as they are. With this, she kept her promise to her mother. After Eloz deals with everything, she comes out to meet Lakshan and apologizes and asks if he's been waiting for long. He says it's all right, she looks busy, and asks if she can come out like this. She says no matter how busy she is, she still has to look after her savior. She gives him the money and says it is his payment for helping her today, and these are some stuff that she found after searching through Camilla's room. She tells him that since Minister Lakshan decided to turn a blind eye to it and give her these items, he can sell these too. Of course, he doesn't have to return the 50 gold now. He tells her she's very generous, but she disagrees. If he were not there today, all of this wouldn't have happened. She says if she thinks of it, this is rather a very small payment, and she also expresses her gratitude. He asks for what? She recalls the memory where he had offered to get rid of those bastards for her. She explains that when he said that he would help her back then, and to be honest, Camilla was scary indeed. But since he said that he would knock all of them down by himself, she unconsciously smiled. She brightly smiles at him and thanks him. At this moment he looks totally captivated by her, but then he asks her what is she going to do now as she lost everything. She says everyone thinks she lost everything, but she thinks she has protected them. She states that this garden and mansion that existed in this empire will be maintained forever. Is there any other method to protect the mansion that's better than this one? He is curious to know that doesn't she feel that it's such a shame to lose everything and it was all hers. She replies she would be lying if she said she was not tempted by them. But if she were to try owning all of them, she wouldn't be safe like this, would she? And it's not like she lost everything. She took care of herself in her own way. He questions her what is she going to do now. She replies for now, she's thinking of leaving the capital. That's when a maid comes and requests her to come back inside. She tells him she has to go and asks him to be careful on his way back. She also reminds him to not forget to meet her in front of the government office at 3 o'clock p.m. on Monday as they have to get divorced. When he returns back to the place he is currently staying at, some men come and ask if he has returned now. He seems annoyed and says he did not know that they're still waiting for him, and asks if he finished the business in the gambling house well. The man refers to him as His Highness and expresses his gratitude to him for his help, and informs him they are able to safely gather all the evidence. The man also looks very intimidated by His Highness. He tells him to forget it, and asks if he reported the fact that he did not come back to his brother. The man hesitates, and Lakshan realizes that he did. The man explains that His Majesty had given him a strict command to report everything to him. Lakshan says he's safe, and he wrapped up everything his brother told him to do. He further adds he doesn't have to guard the surroundings, so it was an unnecessary concern. He will report everything to his brother tomorrow, so he needs to go. The man hesitates, but Lakshan narrows his eyes and lets him know this is not a request. The men cower in front of him and run for their lives. Later, he's laying on his bed and thinks it was a long day. It's obvious since he even had to marry someone. He opens the contract and sees a marriage acknowledged only by a piece of paper. Really funny. He then thinks about Eloz, and he did not know that things would turn out this way. He recalls what had happened earlier. He needed to buy time for his men to look around upstairs, so he needed to draw the guards' attention. He flirted with the women there, asked for their money, and caught the attention of the guards. He jumped out of the window so they would follow him. He did not want to be suspected until the end. He thinks it was a really weird meeting, and why did it happen to be in that place? He also thinks of her shiny blonde hair and how he thought they would be really soft if he touched them. Suddenly, he feels crazy about thinking like that. He decides to go back to his hometown too. His Majesty keeps trying to keep him in the capital. He also thinks how His Majesty will get upset if he finds out that he got married today, but it was fake. If it were real, Eloz would be lying here with him now because it is their first night now. He suddenly jumps out of the bed when he realizes what is he even thinking. Eloz is outside on the balcony. She thinks she doesn't even realize that she's married, but she can't believe she's getting divorced right away, and she is all alone again. Then she thinks again. She was alone from the beginning ever since she was abandoned in the cabin. She recalls her mother's words that when she is having a hard time, she should wear this necklace and pray while looking at the garden. Then she will get a lot of help. Says she's not having a hard time, but what should she do from now on? That's when the pendant shines and she is surprised. Next day, Lakshan is sitting at the imperial palace and is annoyed because His Majesty is taking a long time. He decides to walk in the garden, but then decides against it as he doesn't need to stand out. He then looks at the portrait of his mother, who was the emperor, and wonders if he looks like her. He recalled the childhood memories where he used to ask his father how his mother looked. His father realized that his son had never seen her. He had told him that she was a wonderful person and was always shining. He recalls father's face when he would draw his mother's sketches and would smile, and the young him would join his father and laugh. One day his father had brought white lilies, and he asked why did he buy flowers like this. His father was crying and told him that the emperor passed away and told him he wanted to be alone for a while. On the day of her death, his father had told Lakshan that her mother was the former emperor Ukresha. He explained that after Her Majesty dealt with the traitor, she met him and gave birth to him, and then he and his son lived a secluded life. He also gave him a necklace that she had told him to bring when he needed help. He warned his son to never go there, but he should keep it. Soon after the war broke out, Harkin was fatally wounded while evacuating residents from the battlefield. Harkin was the male protagonist's father who announced upon his death that from now on Lakshan is the mercenary King Harkin. He took command of the mercenaries, pretending to be his father, and evacuated the villagers. Harkin's death remained only in the hearts of him and his colleagues. At that time, he thought it would be good to disappear quietly after the war. Back in the present, His Majesty finally arrives and is not okay with the formalities with his brother. He met with his brother during the final showdown between the imperial army and the Suing people with all their might. The emperor was also present there. At first the imperial army seemed dominant, but soon the emperor's army was isolated as the enemy dug into the flank. The emperor seemed to be completely surrounded by the Suing people. Lakshan realized that if he did not intervene to protect his brother, he might die. That's when he went and fought and protected His Majesty, who recognized his brother Lakshan at first sight. He thinks even though the bandage was torn, it was still amazing that he noticed it right away. His Majesty notices that Lakshan is thinking about something and asks him about it. He replies that he is thinking about the first time that he met His Majesty on the battlefield, and he knew who he was right away. And it's fascinating to think about it again, because he noticed it even before he saw the necklace. His Majesty replies that's because the late emperor often told him about his brother. She explained to his son that as soon as Lakshan was born, she returned to the palace and she didn't even know what he looked like. But she thought he looked a lot like his father when he was born. His Majesty believes that he would still recognize him right away, even if he hadn't heard about him before. He could say that the royal family has a good sense, and there's an animal sense in that part. His Majesty says in that case his brother also recognized him right away, but he still addresses him as His Majesty. Lakshan thinks to himself he never intended to call him his brother. He thinks to himself that a younger brother who suddenly appears to the emperor who doesn't have descendants. It's like a seed of trouble. He thinks that he would be a prospective traitor to some few truth-knowing subjects, and he doesn't have to be so vigilant like that. His Majesty says that he heard that he helped a lot on the gambling house problem, and thanks to him things are going to be easy now. But there's another problem, that is his marriage. Lakshan smiles and thinks he already did it. He tells His Majesty that he doesn't have to be worried about his marriage issue. His Majesty says why shouldn't he be worried? He's already 26 years old. That means he's already 6 years older than the average age to get married in the empire. Lakshan thinks to himself that he started again. His Majesty declares that he has decided to set up a meeting for him with all the women of marriageable age, since he will be busy meeting all of them. He should prepare his heart. Upon hearing this, Lakshan's face pales and goes into shock. The emperor happily tells him that he will set up a meeting for him starting tomorrow, so he's going to stay in the royal palace for now. He says brother. The emperor's taken aback by his calling him as his brother for the first time. Lakshan says to be honest, he has a person who he thinks of as his partner. The emperor doesn't believe it because he hasn't talked about it even once. He explains that it's because he would tell him to bring that person right away if he talked about it, and how bothersome it would be for her if she had to meet His Majesty all of a sudden. Lakshan states that once the Northerners choose their partners, they won't look at other people until they die. So he hopes that his brother will understand that he has no choice but to be more careful about it, and thinks wow, the lights were smooth. His Majesty says he gets it. Lakshan sighs in relief, but then he asks, what's her name? As the emperor believes he can at least tell him her name. He cannot just keep calling her his partner. Lakshan ends up telling his brother that her name is Eloz. The emperor asks what kind of person is Eloz. He replies that she is an energetic and wonderful person. He then asks for her hair color. He replies shiny blonde, and then he asks for her eye color and all the other details. He only stops once he is satisfied, however. Then he says it will obviously be burdensome for her to be summoned to the royal palace, so he will be the one who goes out to meet her. Lakshan is so confused that he thinks he doesn't have any other choice other than to run away. On the other hand, Eloz has already arrived at the government office, and when she sees she is alone she wonders if she has arrived early. However, since it's somewhat uncomfortable to look at the mansion now that it's no longer hers, she also finished all the businesses that were required for the donation. She realizes it would have been nice to bring along an escort with her, but she cannot be caught having a divorce. Also, she cannot trust the people in the mansion. She recalls how all the maids were being hesitant in front of her and thinks in the mansion she couldn't drink a glass of water comfortably. She feels, to be honest, it would be better to postpone the divorce until everything becomes more peaceful. But there's no way Lakshan would do it, so it's better to hurry and get divorced. She startles as pain shoots through her neck, realizing someone has pierced her with a needle. In confusion she wonders about it, but soon recognizes the ominous onset of unconsciousness as it overwhelms her. Someone inquires if she's feeling all right. It seems that she is not feeling all right, so she should just lean on to her. Eloz recognizes this voice is of Camilla. Camilla tells her to get her senses together as they have a lot of conversations to have. The person she sent lost one of his legs and 2 fingers. Eloz realizes she cannot speak and wonders if she's going to die like this. She thinks about Lakshan and realizes that if she died immediately after registering their marriage, the suspicion will fall on him. Camilla asks her man why she is so weak and they should hurry up and also bring her along with them. She orders them to hurry up and help her lift her up. They bring her in the alley and Camille asks was the drug too strong? Why isn't she able to wake up? She says that she might regain consciousness if she starts cutting her hands and legs off right. She decides to do it, but a warning to let go of her stops her before she can act on her evil intentions. When she looks up, it's Lakshan, who looks clearly pissed off and mad. He asks them what are they doing to his wife. Camilla says it was his turn next anyway, but he came here on his own. Moreover, is he going to imitate a mercenary with nothing on him? She instructs her men to catch him. One of the big men runs after him with an axe in his hand. However, Lakshan delivers a powerful punch in his face and he falls to the ground. Camilla and his men are left standing with their faces drained of color. He says, imitating a mercenary, that's his best skill. Later at night, Eloz slowly regains consciousness. As her senses return, she startles, leaping in bed, and screams Camilla's name. When she notices this unfamiliar place, she wonders, where is it? Lakshan comes in with a tray in his hands and notices she is awake. She asks him why is he here and then what is this place. He tells her that she should eat some food first. Because the antidote is so strong, the doctor said that her stomach cannot be empty, and he said that she will feel dizzy until the poison is completely neutralized. She realizes, come to think of it, she feels a bit dizzy too. She then asks him what happened to Camilla. And what about those mercenaries? He tells her this is the inn where he stays. He lies to her that when he arrived at their meeting place, he saw her being dragged to the alley. The truth is, he killed all of them and did not even spare Camilla. He then ordered his men to come out and take care of all the mess and asked for the nearest hospital from there. However, he tells her a different story which won't make her run for the hills. He says, looking at her being dragged to the alley, he reported it to the security guards. The security guards came and saved her, and Camilla with her mercenaries were taken in custody for suspicion of objection. She asks him that those people were meekly taken in custody. He says it seemed like there was some kind of problem among them. Within that short time, they had a fight and fainted and everything seemed chaotic. He assures her that woman Camilla also got poisoned by her hired mercenary and fainted. She thanks him for his help, but he says it's his duty to his wife. He then ushers her to eat the food as it's getting cold. She is reluctant at first, but as she takes a bite, she finds it very delicious and ends up eating it all. He asks her what is she going to do from now on. He tells her that Camilla is in prison, but it seems like her relatives are rioting. According to the Empire laws, people can reclaim what has been donated to the Empire within 1 year. She believes she should go far away from the capital for now. He asks her if she has the money for her travel. She assures him she has that much. She explains at least the people from the Ministry of Finance hid some assets before the mansion was checked. Well, those people turned a blind eye to some extent and gave them to her. Also beside that, when her pendant shined that night, she realized that there was a hole in that place. It was a safe. Inside was a password for another safe where emergency funds were kept, and the emergency fund is kept in 5 places. She recalls how her mother told her that she should find and use them in case of an emergency. Her mother even apologized that the emergency fund was small, and she now freaked out that how 100,000 gold was a small fund. She thinks to herself that with 100,000 golds, she can buy a good house in a big city, and the money will still remain. Even if she lives leisurely her whole life, she thinks, let's hold on for 1 year. He asks her again where she is going. She replies honestly that she is not sure. She says she wants to go as far as she can since she doesn't have any plans in mind. He asks her how about going to his hometown. She is startled for a moment. He thinks, what did he end up saying? Then he explains that he said it because she said she wants to go far away. He further adds it's a good and quiet place and thinks if she will refuse. But to his surprise, she looks excited and eager to know more about his hometown. He tells her his hometown is a small village in the north. There are about 100 households in total. She replies she likes that as she thinks, since it's a small village, it will be a good place to hide from her relatives. He also tells her it has a fertile soil, so whatever she plants will grow well there, and when the wheat has ripened, the field's color turns gold and the village kids do fishing in the river. She notices he really likes his hometown, and it's the exact suitable place for her the more she listens to him. Because the northern area was incorporated into the empire just a couple of years ago, the aristocrats won't go there since it's an uncivilized land. But then a question arises in her mind. She asks him why is he being so kind to her? She says, setting aside their marriage of convenience, he could have left her in the hospital, but he's even looking after her, and he's even telling her about his hometown as a place to hide. She asks him does he give suggestions to all the women he meets. He is quick to deny the accusation. He tells her to be honest, he needs to ask something. He looks a little bit nervous, but then he asks her, would she be his partner? Eloz realizes that's how the Northerners call their spouse. For them, marriage is a sacred relationship that's committed in front of God. Once they become partners, they can never separate, and even after their partners have died, they have to live alone their whole life. She realized when she was a child, she had read that because of that, there are many people who prefer to date only, and there are also people who have kids with their lovers without making them their partners. Lakshan quickly corrects himself that he was asking her to pretend to be his partner, not to be his real partner. He explains everything to her. She repeats his words that he doesn't really want to get married, but his imperialist half-brother forced him to get married, so he lied about having someone in mind to be his partner, and then he ended up mentioning her name as he pleased along with a description of her appearance, right? He looks ashamed and apologizes to her. He explains that his brother is somewhat persistent, so he's a person who will search up all the documents about her, and he couldn't really explain that it was a misunderstanding. She tells him, "All right, it means that they have to be in a married situation for a while, right?" He asks her if it is really okay. She tells him that he is her savior who saved her life, that much is nothing, and she has superior motives in her mind too. In that way, she won't gain suspicions from her relatives, who may think that it's a marriage of convenience. She's okay with this because they only have to maintain this marriage for a couple more years. After that, His Majesty gave them the marriage certificate and a letter. There's no way he will come to meet them, right? Lakshan is lost in all these thoughts when Eloz calls his name. She asks if he's really all right. As expected, it's too much for him, right? She will pay for the wagon, isn't that what he's worried about? He assures her he's really all right. He was just calculating the schedule of their trip. He thinks the poor mercenary image has been clearly stamped on his face because of their first encounter. He wonders if she will faint if she knows that all the surrounding areas in his hometown are his territory. He was tired of the role of mercenary king in the war, so it was the land that he received to live ordinary with his colleagues in his hometown. But due to its fertile granaries, this place has to pay a huge tax. The properties bestowed by His Majesty were already too much. They were given to him as a gift by the Majesty for saving his life. He believes there is no need to explain it, and it's also been a long time since someone has worried about her. When they reach, she feels dizzy. He asks her if she's all right and gives her the water. She tells him she felt like dying. He reminds her she was excitedly admiring the views in the beginning. She explains because she had always been highly tense in capital, so it was her first time admiring the views comfortably from a wagon. She says it's thanks to him that she could peacefully admire the view this time and expresses her gratitude to him. The man of the inn welcomes them. Eloz tells him that they are going to stay for one day, and he should provide them with dinner and breakfast as well. He asks if they want one room. She is going to deny, but Lakshan cuts in and says they want the same room. The man apologizes for his insensitivity and realizes there are a couple. Lakshan agrees and says they are a newly married couple. They don't want to be apart even for 1 hour. He then asks to take his leave since his wife is tired. The man says both of them are in their prime time, so they can order dinner until late at night. He smiles and pushes her and says, "Let's go, honey," and she's super confused about it. The room looks more like a honeymoon suite, and both of them are standing in front of it awkwardly. Eloz grabs candelabrum with the intention of hitting Lakshan with accusing him of being a wolf like all men. He raises his hands trying to explain.